Hello, everybody. We got two, so we're going to wait another minute until everyone else managed to spin off. Oh, actually, I take it back. We got four. Hi, Riley. Hi, Jason. Hi, Iran. Hi, Brian. Hi, Jordan. Hi, David. Oh, we're all starting to filter in. Excellent. Excellent. Okay, so I'm going to get started, even though we still have people coming in. Everybody here has, presumably at this point, already watched The Art of the Elevator Pitch. If you haven't, go back and watch it and then jump back into the conference in a while. Like from now on, you all know the drill, so I'm going to assume that you watched it. So why don't we get started? If you'd like to come on and give your pitch, this is all workshop. We've got, I have a hard stop at noon, so we're going to keep going as far as we can until noon. And then at that point, if there are people who haven't gone and still want to go, you'll either do it with, you are going to do it with me or Dr. Phil when we have our first set of partner meetings. If you have a burning urge to try it before that, you can always Slack us and we'll set up some time to workshop it for you even before Destination Dreamit if you'd like. But let's jump right in. If you want to come up and give your elevator pitch, raise your hand. There should be a button to do that at the bottom of the screen. We'll bring you forward. First thing is name, second thing is company, and then we're going to go right into the elevator pitch. Doug, let's bring our first volunteer or victim.
Andrew, I have no one at this point raising their hands.
Okay, so, someone should be brave. Oh, hold on. Where in the video was that mentioned? Where can I see the video that was mentioned? It's not on YouTube, and I haven't received an email about it, nor have I seen it in Slack. I'm pretty certain it was in Slack. Doug, do me a favor. Just put the video into the Zoom chat webinar to everybody so it's there. But I'm pretty sure you did send it out on the channel on Slack. It was under content, and I think I also reposted it in the channel that goes to both health and education cohorts. So without calling out the person by name who didn't see it yet, just drop down, watch the video. It's about 6-7 minutes and come back on. Cool? Okay. Need someone brave to be the first volunteer. Really, I expected you guys to be a little bit more brave about this. I hope I wasn't too brutal on the one-pagers. Of course, we could just pick people at random. Ah, we have one. Great. Doug, you'll bring them forward?
I'm working on it. Hold on.
Yeah, Simon, we're asking for volunteers to come forward. Just raise your hand by clicking the raise hand button at the bottom of the screen if you want to give your pitch. Everyone just keep raising your hands and Doug will pull you over one at a time. Meanwhile, props to Brad for being the first one to raise his hand. Brad, what's your name? What's your company?
Brad from Prompt. We provide feedback on documents. We match each document with an expert on its subject and provide feedback on its content and structure. It's a $70 billion market across students and professionals with plays in both B2B and B2C. Our average customer spends over $100 with us within their first couple months at a 45% margin due to our technology and network that enables us to efficiently provide this feedback.
Okay, not bad. A little bit on the longish side, right? You ran a little bit long, and it also sounded a little too prepared, right? So it's okay. Like, this is actually just tweaking. Number one, you got your company name out in front. That's great, so people forget that. Number two, you did actually say pretty clearly what you did, jargon-free. You mentioned the market size. Could have been a little bit clearer on the customers and initial traction, right? So remember, this what makes you special, their part can include anything from proprietary algorithms, but you have to prove that you really do have them, all the way through to like the traction. There's some companies out there that investors have seen 1,000,001 times before. I'm not saying that's the case for Prompt necessarily, but in that case, I'll give you an example. There's a company that was a shop the look fashion tech site. So, you'd see a picture and then you could buy anything, any of the items on the picture. We've seen that so many times that we throw up in our mouths a little bit every time someone says it. The only thing interesting about that company was he had 70,000 monthly active users, right? Like anything else, I was gone. Like the shop the look site, I was asleep. So, his pitch when we talked about it was like, we're the only shop the look site that's achieved 70,000 monthly active users. Would you like to know how? Right? That was the only way to hook somebody. So let's sex this one up a little bit, Brad. Here's how I would take it, right? So I would make the pain point a little bit more obvious. Like it's implicit in there, right? You don't actually make it explicit. You just say you get high quality feedback. The presumption is it's because the writing kind of sucks to begin with. So let's make that explicit. So you might say, I'm Brad. I'm the founder of Prompt. Prompt is there for all the students and professionals. You decide if you want to do both. Either students, professionals who have to communicate in mid and long-term writing, like essays or letters, but who aren't, just to be candid, not very good at it. And we have a network of professionals who will give editorial feedback on that, on those writings, so that they can actually get a lot better at their writing. So we can compress that. I'm doing it on the fly. Now let's see how we can actually get the $70 billion market in there. You have, just so I know, the 70 billion, how do you get it, and how much of that is students versus professionals?
Yeah, so it breaks down about 30 billion students, 40 billion professionals, and essentially we take the like the 16 million students, right, that are out there, and you multiply that by like $200 a year, which is essentially what an average customer of ours, we believe, use the service. On the professional side, it's somewhat similar. It's just like white collar workers, and they pay more money for it.
Totally get it. So you're going to have to make a strategic choice when you pitch it, if you measure the professional side or not. Going in is pretty damn big anyway. And remember, like, you don't want to give them a reason to say, well, that's absurd, right? Professionals are never going to do it.
Yeah.
And then you lose the part that, like, wow, students would, right? Or schools would on behalf of their students. Let's just say, for sake of argument, you're doing only students. I'm not recommending it. It's just cleaner as a learning example. Yeah. Then you would say, I'm the founder of Prompt, and we exist to help just students. You might say students from high school all the way through grad school who have trouble communicating effectively in written format. We hook them up with a network of professional editors who give them, feedback on their, on their communication. Ultimately, and how would I be smooth about? How would I be? I mean, I guess you could just kind of stop and say, the market is at $30 billion. The market is. Well, here's how we do it. I would say to the 16 million students who need help on their, help communicating in written format, right? So if you're saying 16 million students who are, let's say, these 16 million students, potentially could represent a, $30 million market on the student side alone. We'll keep working on it. It's going to be kind of an iterative process. What I sometimes say is write it out, and then cross it out, right? So just lose it, because you don't want to get it to the point where it sounds like it's a script, but you do want to get it to the point where you've kind of hammered out, here's my Mad Lib, here's the order I'm going to do it in, here's how I know I've hit all the big points. But we'll talk more about this in our next partner meeting. Let's bring somebody else forward, okay?
Cool. Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks, Brad. Doug, if you wouldn't mind. Thank you, Doug. There's a little bit of a lag as we bring people up and down, so we're just going to work with that. It's the nature of the nature of Zoom. So I know from the chat that we had before, hold on, let me get it up. I think Simon was open to being the next guinea pig, but I can't. Let me just verify that's who it is, and we won't bring him forward. Yeah, Simon, are you good being the next volunteer? No, it's actually Balaji using Simon's account, but he'll do it. Great. Doug, the Simon Woodside account, please bring him forward.
You guys hear me okay?
We can hear you now. So, all right. So first of all, Balaji, did I pronounce your name right?
Yes, you did. I apologize for the confusion on the Zoom.
No worries. No worries.
Signing on my part.
Cool. So, Balaji, what are you working on?
So my name is Balaji. I'm the co-founder of a company called MedStack. We provide a platform to make it really easy for developers to build applications that speak to the healthcare industry. Health and fitness is the fastest growing category in the App Store by a factor of 2. It's a $4 billion market today. It'll be a $26 billion market in just a couple of years. But most applications don't share patient information with the healthcare industry because it's too hard. Adding that functionality adds 12 months and up to $100,000 of extra costs. We make it really easy by introducing tools that are familiar to developers to do that, and also to make it really easy for institutions to adopt these applications. I'd love to tell you how we do that.
Okay, great. That's a little bit long. The last 10 seconds or so, most of that's not necessary if we can fit it in. So I'm also going to ask you to flip that one again, right? So you start with, here's what we do.
Yeah.
Then you like, here's how big the market is. And then finally you get to why you have to do it. Why is it painful?
Sure.
So let's flip it around. Let's start with, and the other thing is also, it sounded a little rehearsed. I know, so that's what I'm saying. Like, you want to be like solid with it, but you don't want to sound rehearsed. It's tough.
Understood.
That's a little tough, hitting the right balance. Now, you will, the health tech guys, you will have later, get exactly one, but you're going to have a 90-second pitch opportunity in front of one of our partners. You know, when it's not interactive, when you're actually on the stage, it's totally okay to present the way you just did.
Okay.
You can't read the other people's visual cues. You're kind of going over the script you want to go over, and they know it. Like, you're kind of, it's like a conversation, a simulated conversation. You're just kind of assuming they ask the questions.
Yeah.
90 seconds, that's kind of okay. Deeper level of detail is okay. You know, the bigger point is that you should have kind of an accordioning, I don't know if that's a word, but you should have the ability to unpack your speech to almost any length of time.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got a 15 to 30 second elevator pitch, the 1.5 to 2 minute version, you know, if you happen to be in a different setting, the 5-minute version if you're in a more, even a better setting, and then, you know, hey, let's sit down and have a 20-minute conversation. That's probably with a deck in front of you. Maybe not. You should be able to shift seamlessly from the different contexts, knowing how much time you have, just swapping in different things, different level of details, different topics, depending on, you know, the resource of time you have to work with.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's an aside. Let's go back to the elevator pitch. So I would say, you know, by the way, you have a window of opportunity to get me to pronounce your name properly.
Yeah.
So don't be shy about telling me. I'd rather get it right than be the guy that's getting it wrong for the next.
It's like biology without the I or apology without the A.
Biology.
Perfect.
Okay, great. So you might say, I'm saying, hey, Balaji, what are you working on? You don't say, hi, I'm Balaji, right?
Yeah, true.
That's kind of very kind of pitchy.
Yeah.
So it could be like, you know, thanks for asking. I'm actually helping the X billion-dollar developers who are struggling to, you know, to connect with, you know, the wearables by API or share for apps to share information, who just can't do it right now because there's no simple solution for it, right? And my company, don't be the company name, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my
MedStack.
and my company MedStack makes it dirt simple,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I'm not doing it justice, but you get the idea. So we flip it. I'm helping the customer, pain points, size of market, company name, special sauce, right? So I'm helping the struggling, the X billion dollar, X million, whatever it is, developers. We're trying to do XYZ for the $1 billion, X billion dollar app market in health, but can't because It just, there's no
So-
easy way to do it.
What's interesting about that is nowhere in those 4 things did you actually say what the solution is, because you want them to ask you. Is that right?
Yes and no. So the solution is you're making it easy for them to do it. So you may want to, it might be, we're making it easy for them to do this by creating a universal API for them to hook into. That may not be what you're doing, but
Yeah.
and then the universal API borders on being jargony, but we get it. It's like universal translator. And if that's not exactly what you do, but it's kind of close enough to the elevator pitch, you might say by making what is effectively a universal API. Like that's close enough for the 15-second version.
If I can ask you a question, the one thing that I've really struggled with elevator pitches for this company specifically is it's so specific. And so if we talk to somebody who's not in the healthcare space, and I don't know if my classmates who are in the healthcare space have the same experience, they almost don't even know the problem exists. I mean, like, I can email my patient data to my doctor. Why is that a problem? What are you talking about? There's no issue there. Whereas they flip it over, and if we talk to somebody in the healthcare space, they have known about the problem so long and have just always assumed it's unfixable that, like, we just get faced with skepticism right from the beginning.
So that's actually an excellent question. So it is totally acceptable and actually probably best practice to have different versions of the elevator pitch if you're dealing with certain specialized users.
Right.
So let's take it from the generalist investor side. That may or may not actually even be meaningful at all, because there's some generalist investors who will never do health or will never do it. So if that's the case, you're kind of wasting your time pitching him. But if he's a generalist investor that's done 1 or 2 investments in wearables, so you're thinking, he's done wearables or light fitness, so he might be willing to do something similar in the health space.
Right.
Then the pitch might go something like, so Balaji, what are you doing? Thanks for asking. My company, MedCircle, is there to help the X million developers who are trying to get this information, medical level information, for their apps, but can't due to regulatory issues like HIPAA, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Our service is the only HIPAA compliance solution to it, and we're opening up a total, X billion dollar market. Right, so you're kind of front loading to them. You're telegraphing to them, no, it's not that easy. And then they say, well, I can just email my information to the doctor. And you're like, you can do it because it's your information. But when you start dealing with third parties, it's really regulated.
Yeah.
Right. And let's flip it again. Let's say you're talking to a very sophisticated health tech investor who can do it. Then the answer might be, so Balaji, what are you working on? And you can say, well, as I'm sure you know, it is virtually impossible as an app developer to be able to get this kind of information. We've actually solved that problem. We have the first HIPAA compliant universal API for healthcare wearables. Right now, you may get a little skepticism, right?
Yeah.
But they'll at least say, okay, how do you work around it, right? And that's okay. That's the hook. Remember, the whole point is just to get them to kind of lean forward and ask that question. The only exception I would have there is if, is it an 8-second like special sauce, or is it a 2-minute explanation of why you're able to do it?
Not 2 minutes, probably about maybe 25 seconds. I can try to get it.
Yeah. So you're not going to be able to squeeze it all into the elevator pitch.
Yeah.
You're just going to have to say, like, acknowledge, right? Like, he's toned out because he thinks there's no solution. You can say, believe it or not, we finally cracked the nut. Like, we now have a fully HIPAA compliant universal API for medical data and wearables.
Right. Okay.
And that will possibly buy you the 30 seconds you need to explain to them. Like, no kidding, you've done it.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for jumping in. Okay, let's go to more hands. Guys, I'm being gentle. Raise your hands. Okay. We have Iran or Rich or Doug. Okay, great. The log jam is starting to break. Okay, can you unmute Doug? Doug, unmute Doug, please. Doug, I can't hear you. You may be muted on your end.
There we go.
Great. So, hey, Doug, for the benefit of everyone else here, what are you working on?
University Beyond is a platform that connects over 84% of the global brands trying to reach the college market by matching on-campus influencers to brand ambassador programs and on-campus internships. We provide a platform that allows for both the recruitment and management of these students, and the market size is roughly $3.4 billion.
Okay, so couple things. Number one, did you mean that? Because you didn't sound like you meant, right? You were kind of hesitant, like,
I'm sick.
oh, okay. So that's true. You did tell me that. So you get a little bit of a pass for you're not like
Loving it.
out.
Oh, trust. I'm a big fan.
Yeah. So number one, for everyone else out there, you got to say it like you mean it. If you're not excited about it, the investor never will. So we'll just put that as a general rule, not a specific criticism. The transition was awkward, right? So I'm like, just imagine we're sitting there, we're at the bar waiting for our drinks, right? And we're talking like, oh, so Doug, what are you working on? Then you went, University Beyond is, right? That was kind of a prepared statement. So really, you want to just work the transitions like, oh, my company is University Beyond. We do, or we X. Just a little smoother there. There was also a little bit of paint by numbers. Like when you got to market size, it kind of felt like, oh, fuck, I forgot to say how big the market is. I'm just going to throw it in now. Right?
I usually have never included market size in my elevator pitch, which I found very interesting about the elevator pitch aspect of the video.
Yeah.
I usually have found that investors just kind of have assumed, okay, they're going after the college space and the millennial market, which in general is a pretty big market.
So that's also a good point. Thank you for bringing it up. There are some markets that are so obviously large that you don't need to say that. I wouldn't assume that with brand ambassadorships, because there might be like the millennial market is huge, but like not every business that works with millennials is going to be huge. Like they might say like brand ambassadors, like how many of those are there really when it comes down to it? Like, 2 people per campus and there's, 2,000 campuses, that's going to be really small, right?
Right.
So I think you do need to address it. Not everybody will need it, but there are going to be some people who will be like, it's a niche market, and you want to preempt that. Like the ideal situation would be for those guys, when you mention the markets, it's like, really, is it that big? How do you get to that market? Right? And then you're having a good conversation, right?
Okay.
You don't want to lose them because they've assumed it's small. So I also said, the transition there. I wrote a note to myself that I can't read, so we'll forget about that one. God damn it, I can't read that one either. Okay, so let's just break it down a little bit. I'm not sure the problem was entirely clear, right? It's kind of implicit that it's hard for brands to find it, right?
Yep.
So I think the way I would say, I always like leading with the problem. I mean, almost always. Sometimes it just makes sense to wow them with something else. But in this case, I think it's still a good rule of thumb. I think it's, well, my company name is University Beyond. We work with the brands who increasingly are turning to brand ambassadors on college campuses to help promote their products, and the college students who are increasingly looking for these opportunities as a way to get up a leg up in the crowded, employment markets. Currently it's already an X million, billion, whatever it is, dollar market, but there's no good way for these two parties to connect.
Right.
And we make that happen. Now, I can actually read my note now. You use the word platform.
Yep.
Grandma doesn't know what a platform is.
Agreed.
Like most of the investors will, right? So this is not like on the level of sins you can, this is a misdemeanor. But in general, like it's always nice not for me to have to think like, okay, he said the P word, is he using it right? Right.
Yeah.
So because people are like, oh, I'm a platform for X. I'm like, no, you're not. You're a fucking e-commerce solution, right? But they like platform because it's in vogue.
Right. It's a buzzword.
Don't be that guy. Like, oh, we have X thousand dollars monthly recurring revenue. No, you sell sneakers. It's not recurring. What do you mean by that, right? but monthly recurring sounds cool, so they say monthly recurring, right? That will kill your credibility. You actually, in this case, do have a platform, though more effectively, you have a marketplace, if you want to be really precise, right? So, and marketplace grandma might kind of understand. So if you're going to use one or the other just to be concise, I would say, after like, well, my company's University Beyond.
Operating management platform?
We can get better than that, right? You know, University Beyond, I help these guys with this problem and these guys with the other problem. It's already this big, but as you may be surprised, there's actually no recruiting marketplace that brings them together. Until now, that's what we do. Right. So the other thing is, like, there's sometimes they're really cool phrases that will sum up what your business does. And sometimes they're just really cool to you, but no one else gets it. Like, you can't use those. Sometimes they're cool and everyone gets it right away. You can use them right away. Most of them are kind of in between. They're kind of at the point where once I know what you do, I'm like, yes, that's exactly it. But before I do, I don't get it. So it was a company last cycle who they basically put very large kiosk storage areas where you could, if you lived in a non-doormat building, get packages delivered, right? Like temporary lockers. And it was a great place for you to, otherwise you had to wait at home until your dry cleaning came. And that entrepreneur loved the phrase, we are a last mile solution to the package delivery problem. And I said, Arthur, like, you are, but no one gets it until you explain it.
Right.
So I said, Arthur, if you really want to use the phrase because you think it's really cool, it's the end of the elevator pitch, right? So it's like, we do X, Y, and Z. We're in these cities. Oh, traction you left out, right? You do have good traction.
Yes.
Right. You work with really high name brands. So you should say helping, corporations like X, Y, and Z, who are, by the way, our clients.
Yeah.
Right. Name drop. It's okay if it's true. It's okay to drop those. The traction thing could also be revenue, it could be number of customers. Go back to that. The point was with Arthur, I said, listen, you can do it at the end, right? We do X, Y, and Z for these customers, making it easy for them to do blah, 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 effectively being the last mile solution for the package delivery problem, right? Once it's at the end of that, like, even grandma gets it.
Right.
So that's acceptable. So if you want to, describe yourself as a recruiting platform for brand ambassadors, it's okay after you've described the problem and the solution, because then they get it. Cool?
Cool.
Okay. You, Doug, have two more things you need to do.
Yes.
One is get better. And two is book your partner meetings with me.
Already done.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. You're excused. Go get some rest.
I will do my best.
I see Rich is queued up. Rich, you're muted. Either you or Doug need to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. So, Rich, what are you working on?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So Kermit provides visibility for hospitals and their surgeons into the fragmented and costly area of implantable medical devices. A typical hospital overspends in this area by 30% or more of their total annual spend. We have a client that's realized $5 million in savings just this past year. The average environment realizes an 8 to 10% return on their annual subscription with us. The Kermit approach works because Kermit was created and managed by former medical device experts, and the total available market of U.S. hospitals is roughly $2.4 billion.
Okay, so some good stuff here. We can make it better. So number one, the transition was good. It was smooth. I appreciated that, but then it started to get a little bit kind of canned presentation-y. The TAM felt like, total addressable market felt like you just tacked it on at the end. We can be smoother about it, getting it into the
which I did.
The flow of the pitch. Yeah, we'll get it in there. It's not a problem. I like that you started with the problem, but limited visibility into. I have limited visibility into what that means, right? So let's actually. What exactly does that mean when you say they have limited visibility into these things?
This is a transaction where the medical device rep enters the operating room and ostensibly sells the implant to a surgeon who can't see the price of the implant. They turn around and then they bill the hospital, who has no reference as to why clinically why the surgeon used what he did, and the rep stands in between those two parties as a wall. Kermit breaks that down and provides one central repository of data that all the parties can use to collaborate in a spend management approach.
So I'm going to kind of bring it back to you. I won't get it exactly right, but you'll tell me if I've got the rough idea, and then we can iterate on it. So really what the problem is that the doctor is buying an implantable device from a rep, price unseen, right? So he has no reason to care about price. And then on the payer side, they have no idea why the doctor chose that particular device. They just know that he did.
Yeah, you've almost got it right, Andrew. Just it's the provider. It's still the provider, but it's the hospital administrative staff who has to issue a purchase order back to their supplier for that part. So it's all happening inside the provider space in one building.
Okay. So the way I would go at it is, thanks for asking. As again, if you're talking to health tech investors, they will know this. If they're not, they may not know it. So either as you may know or as you may not know, depending on the audience.
Okay.
As you probably very well know, when a doctor chooses an implantable device, he has no idea about what the price is, and at the same time, the provider has no idea why the doctor chose a particular device. So it's not surprising that they're paying as much as 30% too much for these devices, just because no one sees. Or then you could say visibility. Like, there's just not enough visibility into the transaction.
So introduce the idea of visibility after you've made that introduction.
Yeah, you can use the word visibility after you said that, because I get, I don't know the price. They don't know why I did it. Visibility, I got it. You could even just say, because no one sees the full picture. If you don't want to go, but you can use it either way. Even grandma would get visibility at that point. I like that you went in there and we've saved clients as much as $5 million already. That's big money. Are the clients name brand?
No, I mean they're regional medical centers here in Maryland. They make sense to us. One of them is the 7th largest as far as total number of knee and hip cases in the nation. But you wouldn't know Anne Arundel Medical Center if I told you, which I just did.
Okay. So is he the one that saved $5 million?
That's the one. However, we're in contracting right now with Ascension Health. We're doing a pilot project with UMass. We're working with Johns Hopkins. How much kind of name droppy do you get before it gets obnoxious? Is that a real question?
No, it is a real question. Everyone has a different tolerance. If the VC thinks that you've got an awesome company and wants to, they will tolerate a fair amount of shameless name dropping. If it's not true and you don't have it and you're just throwing names, it undermines you. But in this case, you probably do. How many hospitals do you work with total?
So today we have 3 hospitals on the system. Ascension will more, in the contracting phase, will probably end up implementing them right around the time we start the roadshow with you, and that'll be probably another 40 environments.
Cool. So I don't pitch my pipeline because
it's a pipeline.
It may be very close or it may be very far. And as an investor, I know that some entrepreneurs are notoriously bad at figuring out how close they are to a sale. They think they're this close, but on the corporate side, we got months before we, and tons of gatekeepers. So I don't pitch the pipeline, and with rare exceptions, right? We're in final due diligence with so-and-so. You're welcome to talk to them, right? If they're that far along. That's the kind of level. So I think I would say, let's kind of break it back. Thanks for asking. My company is Kermit. As you probably very well know, when a surgeon is selecting an implantable device, he really has no idea what it costs. The flip side, the provider really has no idea why they chose it. So it's probably not surprising that they're overpaying by as much as 30% because no one has visibility into the process. And as a whole, this is a $2.4 billion market that we can save as much as 10 to 15%. Is that what you're saying? As much as 30% on, really?
Yeah. So this is where it gets a little bit technical, and you want to draw those questions out if somebody's really interested. But the answer to the question would be, there are 2 components of savings inside of Kermit. your general transactional savings come from audit and compliance kind of stuff. 7 to 10% of your annual spend. The real bang for the buck comes because we are a technology-enabled service business. Jason and John, who you're going to meet soon, are former medical device reps, and they're watching these transactions come across the screen every day, pulling them offline, drafting savings opportunities, pushing them back, and that's where the big money is. That can be upwards of 30, 40, 50% of your total spend.
Okay, so you don't need to throw every number out there, just the big ones, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would lose the 5 to 10% ROI. I assume that means that's what they get after they've spent what they've spent on your service. Net, that's what they net. That's fine. That's for a sell sheet, perhaps, maybe, or for a detailed white paper. But for the elevator pitch, just go with a $2.4 billion opportunity, of which we can save upwards of 30%. Right. So, and this just rolling it back, and you can see like there's no incentive to control costs because no one has visibility in the entire process. And this is this is a big deal. It's like $2.4 billion spent on this. We can save upwards of 30%. And we know it's a huge problem because we're all former med device salesmen. We took advantage of the lack of visibility in our past lives. Right. That gives you street cred. I like that you put it in there.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I think you're fine with that. So you can, I would, I want to get the 5 million in there. So let's paint it by number again, right? Thanks for asking. The company's Kermit, as you likely know, surgeon doesn't see, they don't know why. It's not surprising that given the lack of visibility in the entire process, there's a huge amount of waste here. And this is $2.4 billion, of which we can save upwards of 30%. We've already sold one of our hospitals, $5 million, right? And I know we can do it because we're all former device salesmen, right? We took advantage of this in a prior life, and now we're going to solve the problem for hospitals in general.
That's good.
Cool.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. This is an iterative process. We're going to keep going through it. Why don't we start bringing Iran up, please, and we'll take Rich down. While we're doing that, I'll just, I'll let people know that sometimes when we iterate through this process, we'll make a suggestion, and you'll go off, you'll follow the suggestion, then we'll listen to it and we'll go, that didn't really work the way I thought it was going to work. So, don't be alarmed if you come back next week and present it, and then we said, that just didn't quite work, right? You kind of have to hear it all at once to make sure that it gels. But each week you should be getting closer and closer. It shouldn't just be a weather vane spinning back and forth between with no improvement. Cool. Iran, let's get you unmuted.
Hi everyone from Israel.
So Iran, what are you working on?
Well, preparing to arrive on Monday to the US.
Wrong answer. I'm pretending to be an investor. All right. The reason I say it's very, very good. The reason I say so, Iran, what are you working on? Is I want you to think in the mindset that we're having that conversation. Just run into the elevator at the bottom.
All right. Okay.
Reset. So Iran, what are you working on?
So Somatic is a digital health company doing behavioral modification platform for the $16 billion market for smoking cessation globally. Our customers are health insurance companies, clinics, and corporate employers. And the way that we do it is that we're using big data over wearables in order to apply psychological methods.
Cool. So right up until the last sentence about how we do it, it was actually pretty darn good. You can probably leave the word we're a digital health company out because that'll be blatantly obvious in a moment. Things I really liked about it was you weave the market size in very smoothly, the $16 billion smoking cessation market. You could probably even compress it a little bit, and you could say, we're solving the problem for the $16 billion smoking cessation product by doing X, Y, Z and then you can list your customers, right? That might flow. Sometimes it's customers first and how you do it. Sometimes it's how you do it, and then your customers. That's whatever works, right? So when you said about how you did it, you do it. It's about leveraging big data on wearables, right? So why don't you, in terms that Safta can understand, explain to everybody what exactly that means, like, practically speaking.
Okay, so basically what we're doing is that we're using the raw data that we collect from smartwatches and wristbands in order to analyze and identify in real time the hand-to-mouth gesture of a person. Now, once we know what is the activity that person is doing in real time, we start applying incentives, 4 types of incentives: financial, social, emotional, and rational, in order to understand that the sensitivity of that person to different type of incentives that are being applied on him, and change their doses in order to get to the higher efficacy of what? Of the smoking cessation treatment that was prescribed by his physician.
Okay, awesome. So that also goes to the pain point, right? So I believe, and you tell me if I'm wrong, that the reason most smoking cessation doesn't work is that they really only have one arrow in their quiver. It's like, we'll give you money if you don't smoke. End of story, right? And that's generally or often not the most effective strategy for everybody. And I would venture to say also, like, you don't have the real-time feedback, from knowing that, like, I'm doing this in order to intervene at the right moment. Let's break it down a little bit, and you can say, thanks for asking. My company is tackling the $16 billion smoking cessation market, and as you may or may not know, the reason most smoking cessation programs don't work is they're all about just saying, I'll give you money if you don't smoke, at the end of the year, and that approach doesn't work on most people. What we do is we use the data from watches and wristbands to know when somebody's smoking, and then we can intervene at that moment. Plus, we have 4 different types of incentives, of which financial is only one of them, that we can play with until we find the right combination for that person.
Right. Okay.
And by the way, I specifically did this and that. If you're comfortable doing it, this is just me scratching. If you're comfortable like this and that, it makes it very concrete for the viewer, right? Like, some people might say, like, how does a wristband tell you if you're smoking, right? And you're like, this, right? They get it. Oh, that's a very distinct motion, right?
Yeah, we do this.
Yeah, and if you're talking to the right person, eventually, eventually somebody would say something. Oh, that's very clever. I never thought of inferring how if people are smoking or not based on their wrist motions. Now, eventually, someone's going to ask you, well, what if it's this hand, right? So be prepared for that question. Like that, I could be wrong, but that may be one of the more common follow-up questions you get. Like, what happens if he's smoking with the other hand? And the answer is probably some combination of, well, in those cases, we may not know, or maybe we get it because we know they just lit a match, right? So have an answer ready. Mm-hmm. But if they're asking the question, you've already won on the elevator pitch, right?
Yeah.
You've already hooked them. They're talking. They're thinking about it. They're not thinking about their email.
Okay. Well, Thank you.
Great. Eran, we'll keep going with this, or you'll keep going with this with Dr. Phil when you meet him at Destination Dreamit or as you do partner meetings. But definitely getting there. Let's spin up Raphael, please. By the way, either because the more refined people have waited until the end because they're risk averse, or maybe what you're doing is you're actually adjusting your elevator pitch based on the feedback before. Either way, that's good because I'm hearing the pitches are getting better as we go along. Cool. Raphael, you want a Raphael or Rafe? What do you like? Okay, I can't hear you. You're not muted, but I can't hear you. No, I can't hear you. Can you make sure you're plugged in all the way to your computer? Or you can just unplug it entirely and give that a shot. Keep talking while you're doing it so I can tell if it's starting to work. No. In the lower left corner, there's where it says the mute icon. If you click on the up arrow, it'll tell you exactly what options it's using to to capture your voice.
Hey, Raphael, it seems like we're not getting your audio. What we'll do is, unfortunately for this time, why don't you reach out to me after 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and we'll do a test for you directly, and we'll get it figured out. But I don't know if we'll get this figured out now. We have other people raising their questions, so I'm going to bring Adam up. And Raphael, if you continue to work on it, I'll keep you up and see if we get it working. But if not, just reach out to me via email afterwards. So,
Yeah.
Andrew, let me go ahead and bring Andrew up.
Adam.
Adam.
Hey there. Can you hear me
Hey,
okay?
Adam. What are you working on?
How's it going? Campus Kudos. We provide schools and companies with cloud software to run a private networking and mentorship community. We're working with Stanford, Intuit, top 10 private high school in the country. They work with us to improve career outcomes and foster a culture of giving back.
Okay, did I miss market size?
Did not include market size.
Okay. So actually, you know what, Doug, why don't you bring up the page from the deck that we talked about before? And while you're doing that, okay, wasn't bad, but we can make it better. By the way, your bandwidth is actually a little bit low, so if you want to shut down some of the other things that are going on in the background. Let's just recap here, right? So,
Adam, also move your camera down, please, just so we could see you all a little bit better. Just move your camera down for your computer. There you go. Sorry about that, Andrew.
Cool. So, company name you got. What you do, you kind of got to is a little bit jargony, and we're going to work on that in a moment. Market size is out. Market you talked about well enough, I believe. Good name dropping, effective. It wasn't obnoxious. Your customer and your special sauce was entirely missing, right? Like, I understand that you're doing some kind of networking and mentorship. I don't really get how, right? So let's break it down again. Hey Adam, how you doing? Well, what are you working on? I said, well, I'm working on my company. It's Campus Kudos. Let's jump in with let's make the what you do more about the problem, right?
Yeah.
So in your case, it's a little difficult because you've got the problem in the university setting and the problem in the corporate setting. But at the end of the day, it's not terribly different, right? So you might say something like, whether you're a student looking for mentors to help you with what you should be majoring in, how you should get your first job, or you're a new employee. I have an idea. It was Intuit, and what was the name? What was the other name you dropped?
Stanford.
Great. So it's like, whether you're a student at Stanford trying to figure out what you should be studying over the next couple of years and how you should get your first job, or whether you're a new hire at companies like Intuit, who's trying to plan out your career path and get a mentor who can help you through your career path, the problem is still the same. How do you find the right people to work with you, right? And I think that's a little weak, but you can make it better. How do you find that mentor? What it does is it makes it easy to connect these people, right? It makes it easy to connect, or you could say, and this is not a small problem. I mean, we estimate the market at blah, blah, blah. You're probably going to have to defend that later because it's not so much an existing market, right? So you're going to have to bring them through the math later. So it's fair to say, we estimate them, it's not a small problem. We estimate this is a X billion-dollar problem, and we solve it by give a little bit more detail than you gave here. It's more than just by connecting them, but it's probably 5 seconds of explanation, right? By creating a network of people broken down by skill set and desire to mentor, so they can find the right person. However it is that's easy for you to describe it. And then you can say, and by the way, Stanford and Intuit, paying clients. All right, make sure they get it at the end. Those are good names to drop. So let me just look over here. This cloud-based private networking mentorship community. It's a wee bit jargony. It's anything on the internet is effectively cloud-based, right? Would you call LinkedIn a cloud-based networking solution?
No.
Cloud-based is usually when you're talking about I'm taking software that runs on a laptop and I'm moving it into a virtual environment. That falls into the category of something that probably sounded pretty cool to you, but a real investor will be like, not really the right way to use that word.
Yeah.
Okay. And when it comes to, you gotta be careful with the word networking and network, because vertically focused networks or private networks kind of have a bad name because none of them have actually worked. Right. So it's not like just make it very clear in your pitch that you're not talking about, we're creating a separate network for mentors, right? Or a separate network for dog lovers or a separate network for ping pong players, right? That's, throw up in your mouth territory as far as a VC is concerned. But, talk about it as a, it's a closed network of people who want to give back either to other people in their workplace or, from their alma mater. And what would really, really, really be good, but may not be able to fit in to an elevator pitch, maybe if you're your special sauce side, maybe you can say something like why it is that just using LinkedIn doesn't work, right? Or why it is that using other solutions just doesn't work.
Yeah,
right.
Sense.
And it might be as smooth as, and we do this because unlike LinkedIn, we know exactly who wants to mentor and in what ways. Unlike general networks, these are people who have opted in, made it clear how much they want to network and what subjects they want to network in. Maybe. Yeah. Whenever I give this advice, by the way, there's always the risk that that's not exactly what you do because it's still early in the cycle. So if it isn't, when we have our partner meeting, come tell me that was good advice, but not really relevant to us. Here's what we really did. Okay.
I think I can tell you right now it was good advice. I like weaving in more of the story, and whether you're a student or whether you're this, I think it helps people get it.
Got it. Cool. Okay, let's give Raphael another shot if we can.
Hey, can you hear me now?
Yes, awesome.
All right, great. Thanks for having me.
You're the background. I have that the exact same kind of curved arch behind me. I just moved my camera off to the side so it wouldn't be the background.
Oh, so don't mean to be distracting. Hopefully that's
No, don't worry about it. So where are you calling from?
I'm calling from the home office in New York City. We have our main office in Stamford. We'll be down in Philly, obviously, for a few weeks. And obviously, maybe with some interns, there's a chance to get some space in New York. That'd be helpful as well. But we'll see.
We have a sidebar on that. That's cool. So you want me to call you Raphael or Rafe?
Either one works great, whatever you prefer.
What do you like? You have a window of opportunity for me to get it.
My friends call me Raph.
Okay, Raph.
Yeah.
So Raph, what are you working on?
Sure. CircleLink software coordinated care coaches engage chronic illness patients outside the doctor's office over phone for our doctor customers. So that improves health and unlocks about $15 billion of preventative reimbursements.
Okay. I wasn't feeling the love in your presentation.
Okay.
and there's, so you got to get the enthusiasm up, even though you've probably given this 1,000 times.
Mm-hmm.
Care coaches kind of makes sense, but it's kind of slippery for some people. And you got the market size, but for someone who's not paying close attention, it's not entirely clear what that pain point really is, right? So I think the way you got to go at it is, CircleLink Health deals with the problem of people not following the doctor's recommendation or not adhering to their guidelines. Right now, there are a lot of people called care coaches who are manually picking up the phones and calling them, and that is okay, but not great because of XYZ.
Right.
We're gonna rock this $15 billion market because we're doing blank, right?
Right.
Other ways to get a little bit more granular on it. I mean, if this is all, and this depends on the nature of your business, whether it's drug adherence, like you must take your pills twice a day, or whether it's physical therapy adherence or dietary adherence, whatever it might be. You can actually give concrete examples. Right? You could say, from anything like grandma forgetting to take her blood pressure medicine to whatever. But I would also, number one, got to get the enthusiasm level up. Got to smile. Your voice actually sounds different when you smile. Got to get the enthusiasm up. Got to be a little bit clearer on the pain point. right? Which in your case is actually physical, right?
Right.
They don't take their meds, they're going to hurt.
Right. Well,
But I'm just joking. The pain, in many respects, is to the either to the pharmaceutical company because they're not selling as many drugs, or to the ACOs because they're on the hook when that person has, an adverse event because they haven't been taking their meds properly.
yeah. So sorry to cut you off. So when you say that, to me, it means we need to be way more specific, because we should basically just say we let physicians get a preventative care reimbursement from Medicare that they otherwise can't get.
Yes, because I thought we were talking about it from the pharma side who wants to sell more drugs, or from the insurer side or an ACO, accountable care organization, from there on the hook if there's a relapse. I got that wrong, right? And the investor who heard your original pitch would have thought that also. Okay, so let's make that clear to everyone else so they understand where we're going. We covered this a little bit a couple of days ago. There are industries where the person who uses it, the person who pays for it, and the person who decides to purchase it are different people. And in medicine, it is, virtually any startup that's more complicated than a Fitbit has issues like this. So in this case, what you're saying is it's the physician who has to or wants to do these kind of things because it's better for the patient, but has no real incentive to do it in a traditional pay for procedure type environment. So
that's changing.
Yeah, and the trends are all in favor of being accountable for the outcomes. So, but right now there's no way for them to do it. So let's retool that, right? So let's retool that. We'd say, so as you start with anyone, right? Even if they're not health tech and healthcare investors, you'd say, as you probably know, adherence to things as simple as like a medical regimen is pretty spotty. And when people like grandma forget to take their blood pressure meds, they can end up back in the hospital, right? And as things stand now, doctors would like to increase their outcomes because they want their patients to be better. But in this kind of time crunched environment that they're in, they're simply, they're not rewarded for it. There's no financial incentive for them to do it. So that tends to fall by the wayside. What CircleLink does is it makes it possible for them to, to get their patients to adhere to it and also bill for it. So they actually get paid for doing right.
Right.
And I left the market size out of that. We'll figure out how to do it.
Yep.
Somewhere in the middle, it's like, she doesn't do it, she gets hospitalized. And this is a $15 billion problem, right? And it's not that physicians don't care. It's just that they're very time starved and they're not compensated for it.
Yep.
So, that's how I would do it. But yeah, good point. Like, it wasn't at all clear from the original pitch who was making money from it. Cool.
Yeah.
It is 11:58. I got to run in literally 2 minutes. I don't think we have time for any more pitch prep. Let me just go through the chat here, see if there's any questions. There are no open questions right now. So after our last talk about the one pager, some of you sent me your one pagers to get additional feedback on. That's awesome. I'm happy to do that. If you want to send even just the text of an elevator pitch to me over Slack, I'm happy to look at it there. I don't know if we can record. I don't think we can record audio clips on Slack and send it over. I know we can do Slack calls, but they're not quite the same. We're getting a little tight on time between Destination Dreamit. So if you Slack it to me and I don't respond to you over the next couple of days, just track me down or track Dr. Phil down at Destination Dreamit, preferably over something to drink, and we'll work on the elevator pitch. Just so that you know, traditionally I have started every single one of our partner meetings with the elevator pitch. 2-3 minutes just to work on that, because it is that important. Hopefully somewhere around halfway I'll be able to say, okay, you got it, and we don't do that anymore. But this is one of the most important things you'll do, because it's the very top of your sales funnel. And if you lose somebody at the elevator pitch, you've lost them forever. The good news is it's really relatively easy to improve an elevator pitch so that you don't lose them at the very first stage in the process. Okay, thank you, everybody. I'm going to run. Doug, thanks again for handling all the logistics behind the scenes. And if I don't talk to you before then, I'm looking forward to seeing you all on Wednesday. Have a great weekend. Bye for now.